You're standing at a barbecue. Someone needs a light. You reach into your pocket and pull out a tiny plastic rectangle. One flick, a flame appears. The whole thing takes about 2 seconds from thought to fire. You don't even think about it. You hand it over, job done, back into the pocket it goes. But that little object you just dismissed without thinking has a history that rewrites everything you assume about fire. Because here is the fact that stops almost everyone cold. The lighter was invented before the match. Not barely before, not by accident, 3 full years before, and almost nobody alive actually knows that. Welcome to Simple Things, Surprising Histories. Today we're cracking open the hidden science and shocking origin story of the everyday lighter. Let's go back to 1823. Göttingen, Germany. A chemist named Johann Wolfgang Dobereiner is deep inside his laboratory. He's been obsessing over a strange metal called platinum, and what happens when you expose it to hydrogen gas. What he discovers is wild. Platinum acts like a trigger, causing hydrogen and oxygen to react and ignite without any spark. He built a device around this reaction, a glass lamp that produces a flame completely on demand. He calls it a piezo, which is just German for firemaker, and honestly, that might be the best product name in history. By 1828, over 1 million of these devices have been sold across Europe. 1 million, and that number is not a typo. Rich households love them. Scientists are obsessed. And for a brief window, Dobereiner is basically the Steve Jobs of fire. But then the problem arrives. Hydrogen gas is not exactly the kind of thing you want sitting on your kitchen shelf. Explosions happen. People get hurt. Fear spreads. And then matches arrive in 1826, and suddenly, everyone has cheap, reliable fire. Matches are simpler, cheaper, safer. They work for everybody, not just wealthy Europeans. And Dobereiner's lamp slowly vanishes. But the core idea, a reusable device that creates fire on demand, that idea absolutely refuses to die. Fast forward to 1903 and enter a chemist named Karl Auer von Walsbach, who accidentally changes everything. He's experimenting with rare earth metals and creates a new alloy by mixing iron and cerium together. He calls it ferrocerium, and when you scratch it against a rough surface, it showers sparks at around 3000 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, candle wax ignites at roughly 240 degrees Celsius. Ferrocerium sparks run more than 12 times hotter. Von Walsbach patents it mostly for military flares, not really thinking about cigarettes and pockets. But small European manufacturers catch on, and by the 1910s, ferrocerium-based petrol lighters start appearing across the continent. Then World War I happens, and the lighter finds its first real mass market in the most brutal place imaginable. Soldiers in the trenches need fire constantly. Matches get wet, they blow out in wind, they fail you when you need them most. But a metal lighter filled with naphtha survives the mud, the damp, the cold, and the relentless wind without failing. Soldiers pass them around, repair them, refill them from petrol tins. These devices become a soldier's most prized possession. When those soldiers come home in 1918, they bring the habit with them, and the whole world wants one. And here is where it gets genuinely wild, because here is where one man and $1,000 reshapes the history of fire. In 1932, a businessman named George Grant Blaisdell buys the rights to an Austrian lighter design for $1,000. He redesigns it completely, puts it in a windproof rectangular metal case with a hinged lid, and names it the Zippo. The name is just because Blaisdell liked the sound of the word zipper. That's it, no deeper meaning, pure instinct. But the Zippo comes with something no lighter on earth has ever offered before. An unconditional lifetime guarantee. You break it, you send it back, they fix it for free. No questions, no receipt, no expiry, no limit, forever. That promise costs Blaisdell money, but it builds something more valuable than profit. It builds absolute unshakable trust. During World War II, Zippo stops all civilian production and sends every single lighter it makes directly to the military. Soldiers engrave their names into them, write poems about them, carry them like talismans through every theater of the war. And here is a detail that sounds like a movie but actually happened. There are documented cases of Zippos in breast pockets deflecting bullets. By the time the war ends, the Zippo is not just a product anymore. It is a genuine cultural icon. Now let's talk about what's actually happening when you flick that little wheel, because most people have this part completely wrong. That ridged wheel on top is called the strike wheel, and the tiny rod it scrapes against is not actually flint. It's ferrocerium, the same synthetic alloy von Welsbach created in 1903, hiding right there inside your pocket all along. When the wheel scrapes ferrocerium, it shaves off tiny metal particles that instantly oxidize and ignite the moment they hit the air. Those burning particles hit the fuel vapors rising from the wick, and you have fire in under a single millisecond. The fuel in a classic Zippo is naphtha, a light petroleum distillate, basically a close relative of lighter fluid and paint thinner. Here's something most people completely miss. The flame isn't burning the liquid, it's burning the vapors rising off the liquid. The liquid soaks the wick. Vapors rise off the top. The spark ignites those vapors. That's the whole chain. Now, butane lighters like the classic BIC work a little differently. And honestly, the engineering is even more impressive. Inside a BIC, butane is stored as a pressurized liquid, compressed tightly inside that translucent little tube you can see through. When you press the valve, pressure releases, the liquid instantly vaporizes, and a stream of gas flows up to the burner. The spark in most modern BICs comes from a piezoelectric crystal, and this part is genuinely mind-bending. When you compress a piezoelectric crystal, it generates a burst of electricity, not from a battery, not from a reaction, just from pressure. That electrical pulse jumps across a tiny gap, creates a spark, ignites the butane vapor, and you have fire. The whole sequence from thumb press to flame takes less than 1/10 of a second every single time. Now here is the part of the BIC story that honestly deserves way more attention than it gets. BIC was founded in 1945 by a French entrepreneur named Marcel Biche, who had already built a fortune selling ballpoint pens. He looked at the lighter market and saw what he saw in pens. People paying too much for something that should be cheap. His answer was to engineer the BIC lighter so precisely that it could be manufactured at massive scale for almost nothing. Today, BIC manufactures roughly 4 million lighters per day, and every single one goes through more than 50 quality checks. They test flame height, leak resistance, and drop resistance, and each lighter must sustain a clean flame for a minimum of 3 seconds. The goal is radical simplicity, a lighter that costs almost nothing to own but almost never fails when you actually need it. But here is the piece of lighter history that the industry did not want to talk about for a very long time. For decades, lighters had absolutely no child safety feature at all, and fires started by children playing with them were devastatingly common. In the United States, lighters were responsible for an estimated 5,000 residential fires per year, and many involved children under 5. The US Consumer Product Safety Commission mandated child-resistant lighters in 1994, and the fire statistics dropped almost immediately afterward. That little plastic guard on your BIC, the one that makes you push down before you flick, that thing saved thousands of lives. So go back to that barbecue, back to that 2-second moment where you reached into your pocket without a second thought. That little rectangle you handed over carries 200 years of chemistry, war, tragedy, and stubborn human ingenuity inside it. Inside it is a metal alloy that sparks at 3,000 degrees Celsius, sitting calmly in the pocket of your jeans. A soldier in the trenches of World War I would have traded almost anything for one, and you probably have 3 in a drawer. Every time you flick that wheel, you're connected to Dobereiner's glass lamp, to the trenches of 1917, to a factory floor in France. It connects you to every human being who ever crouched over a fire, desperate for warmth, desperate for light, desperate to survive. The lighter is not just a lighter. It's 200 years of humanity absolutely refusing to let the flame go out. If this sparked something in you, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to Simple Things, Surprising Histories. And drop a comment below. What everyday object should we crack open next? We genuinely read every single one. Thanks for watching, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.